what changed in the Reform? Just to get to the technical side of it. As I said, in the old method, teachers used to use the method of trochos, and some people may have heard that. Trochos means wheel. So I don't have a pointer, but you can understand what I'm going to do. So the little signs around the wheel, each one indicates a particular mode. And the trochos shows how you move from one mode to the other, as I was saying before. Right? So the teacher would start on the top and say the top one is first mode, right? And the teacher would say, ananes, first mode. Then you have to go to second mode. Then you go, neanes, then to third mode, na na. And I'm moving clockwise. And then, ayam. There was no pavugadi at the time. The only thing they had was ananes, neanes, nana, aya, and the corresponding ones for the chromatic modes. So, and then once they reached aya, they would reflect to the other side of the wheel, and they would go down. They would go anes, nehe anes, ane anes, neayem. And that's how they would do paralagi. Chrysanthos, in his theory textbook, he gives us the translated version of what I just did in the new notation. So what the teachers did, they said, that's not really, it's good if you know how to chant, moving from mode to mode, but for a beginner, we need something simpler. And Chrysanthos was educated both in Eastern music, but also Western music, so he knew how to do solfege in Western music. So he said, it makes sense that we have a similar system for our ecclesiastical chant. So they introduced the notes that we know today, the pa, bu, va, di, ke, jo, ni, pa. And they said, instead of doing ananes, neanes, and all that, we're going to sing note by note, and we're going to assign those names to each note. So we're going to say, for instance, here, pa, ni, jo, ni, pa, bu, ga, bu, pa. So that way, they could now read a whole melody, which was not possible to do before in this manner. So that was one major difference, the introduction of pa, bu, ga, di. The second thing that happened in Chrysanthos' textbook was that previously they didn't have a well-defined definition of scales and intervals in ecclesiastical chant. They did have descriptions of intervals and scales, but sometimes they were not so clear. A lot of the chanters, they would use instruments to find the different modes on the frets of an instrument and show, you want to do first mode, you do this string, and then if you move a few frets down, then you find the fourth mode, then you find the third mode. And they would find the modes. It was all based around modes. But that's further down the track. It doesn't really help the beginner who wants to learn how to do a simple melody. So what Chrysanthos and the other teachers did, they said, we're going to define a scale, we're going to assign simple numbers that people can easily follow, and we're going to use that for teaching the differences in intervals. And that will work really well. These are very similar to the numbers and the teaching methods of today. Another thing they did, they said, we have way too many signs and too many things to remember. How about we simplify the set of signs? So they reduced the number of signs in the Byzantine times, and they kept 10. And those 10 had very, very simple function. Previously, you saw one sign, and that could mean 2 lines of musical text, sometimes more. Here, they said each sign would do one single thing. Go 1 up, go 1 down, go 3 up, go 3 down. But just that, nothing more. Simpler. The other thing they did, as I said, the old notation didn't specify an exact duration for each sign. The new notation made it one of its aims for each sign to have a specified duration. If I see a sign by itself, like the ison on the left hand, the origon on the left hand side, I know that that means 1 beat. It means 1 unit of time, let's say. And that way, that was not enough. They needed to specify rhythmic bars to indicate the nature of music, which was rhythmic in the most part. So another thing that changed was that the modes, now they didn't really use the trochos anymore. They allocated the modes on top of the scale, so they knew, because they had the pavuladi, which didn't exist before. They said on V you find this mode, on Ra you find this mode. So it was much easier to find the relationships between modes. Another thing that happened, as I said, there used to be descriptions of intervals even before, since the ancient times. Musicians had described intervals in mathematical terms. However, for ecclesiastical music, Chrysanthos' work was pioneering in that he had described the intervals of traditional music and connected them to both the ancient Greek musical system and Western music. Obviously, some people have, over the years, have criticized or enhanced or corrected or refined Chrysanthos' work on that matter. However, given the timing of when this research was done and the publication, it was an extraordinary contribution to musical study at the time where other nations of the region were still learning music just by hearing and repeating. So Chrysanthos had really contributed something great there. Last but not least, the new method resulted in what is known as exegesis. Exegesis literally means transcription into a more analytic form. As I said, one of the problems was that the old notation was a bit too cryptic. It became known as synoptic notation, so the signs embodied too much.